to Forged in Silence podcast, addressing issues men face but rarely talk about. Didn't butcher it this time. Excited! Man, awesome. It's nice to see you again, Robbie. I know we both had a busy week, sending some video messages back and forth. We got to meet Ryan this week and have a pretty cool conversation and then invite him on the podcast. So it's nice to have you here with us, Ryan. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, Ryan found us and then reached out and was like, "Hey, you want to do a collab?" And here we are. I just finished recording an episode on his podcast. I had a great time with him there, sharing parts of my recovery story, and that is Rock Bottom with Ryan. Ryan, do you want to tell our audience the podcast that you have, just in case anybody does connect with or is looking for stories in recovery?
Yes, of course. So I recently started a podcast based on recovery, and I would say a lot of it has to do with comeback stories from addiction. I go into people's background stories on how their addiction started, what it led to when they decided they needed to quit, and then their comeback story where they hit rock bottom, crawled out, and made something of their lives. And it's not just that. I also go into a lot with people that are still actively in addiction and trying to quit, hearing what they're going through at the moment. And I've also, had conversations with people that are overcoming cancer, overcoming sexual traumas, overcoming a lot of other things too. So it is primarily based around recovery, but a lot of the other things that are involved that led to addiction or were hindering their lives during addiction. And it's been great. Made a lot of great connections and learning a lot of different stories and backgrounds. And it's really, it's helping me help people.
Really, really awesome. Sounds like and I got to listen to a little bit of an episode. I got about halfway through it while I was at work, trying to concentrate on accounting stuff. And man, I can't like concentrate on both yet. Everybody in the office, it's so automatic for them that they've got a podcast on, they're listening to whatever, and I try, but I'm so I I find I can't focus on one because the other one's not automatic. And then so like I tried. I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen a little bit, do like what these people at work are doing, and I mean I got a little bit of everything done, but it's so hard to give a podcast when someone's telling their story or sharing something that's important to their heart, any sort of energy that I feel like it deserves rather than it just being background noise. That like I get lost in the importance of it and I'm like, okay, screw it. I'm just gonna get back to work and like focus on the thing that I need to focus on. Anyways,
Exactly.
that was a sideways thing about like me checking out what you're doing and stuff. It's great. Anyways,
Oh, no, I
overcoming
appreciate you
adversity is
checking it out.
always something great to share because our experiences have a chance of helping out other people.
Yeah.
And that's really why we're here. I'm going to dive right in now and ask you, Ryan, because we start out every episode this way. How it's a Saturday, it's a long weekend, Labor Day weekend, and this episode is going to come out Sunday. So when anybody looks at it today, I'm going to say, so it comes out tomorrow, which is when you watch it today. I'll shut up. How are you really, Ryan? How are you?
How am I really? I would say mentally and emotionally in the best place I've ever been in. Uh, and I'm not saying that because before I suffered from addiction to alcohol and drugs, I was always a anxious, depressed wreck. But I've learned in my sobriety in the last year I've finally gotten comfortable in my own skin. So I'm really happy where I'm at mentally and emotionally today, because my anxiety is gone, my depression is gone. So I'm happy about that, that I can wake up every day and be myself and know that people like me, and knowing that I can be honest with people and I don't have to put on a mask anymore. Uh, but one of the things that has been lingering lately is that I don't seem to have a lot of emotion. I'm having trouble. I don't express any frustration or anger, and I can't cry. I don't get emotional about anything, and that's kind of been a concern in my sobriety as I'm getting to know myself. So it's not just about recovery. It's just, who am I? Why am I not emotional? I've had a lot of serious things come up lately that would have caused me frustration, would have given me anxiety, depression, and I have no reaction to it. So it makes me wonder, am I cold? Am I just not an emotional person? Uh, Even when I was in the midst of my addictions, I was pretty darn emotional. I reacted to everything. But I'm just realizing in the last 11 months, I'm kind of like, I just not very emotional, and nothing seems to phase me, which sometimes is good. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but sometimes I'm kind of like, how come I'm not reacting to that? So I would say that's kind of just a little battle I'm facing lately. Um, I'm going through some issues about, learning how to be independent and not codependent on having people around surrounding me all the time. I have this thing where it's just, if I'm alone, I'm always trying to reach out and stay busy, and I just don't know how to relax sometimes. And I feel like part of that has to do with the fact that as an addict, the more free time you have, the boredom leads to relapse. So maybe that's in the back of my mind, but I just feel like it's hard to sit still. And if I do start sitting still, I am trying to reach out to somebody, make a phone call, make an excuse to go somewhere to see someone. It's just hard to sit still. And I feel like I'm constantly distracting myself. And it makes me question, if I'm codependent on everybody or if I'm able to be independent. So those are the kind of the battles I'm facing lately. Just kind of like getting to know who I am has been really amazing and invigorating and exciting, being comfortable in my own skin, but also I'm also still questioning, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? So it's just one of those things. And I wish one of these days I could break down and cry. I know that's a weird thing to say on a podcast, but everybody needs a good cry, and I can't. And I've had a lot of reasons to cry lately. So,
You aren't the only guy I know that has said the very same thing. Like you want you have a desire to feel that emotion and to have like you want to know what the release of crying feels like. Right? Like there's something in there, there's the tension, there's a whatever, and you're like, I would love to like actually have it be an external thing than just be this internal thing tied in a knot. And that's kind of what it sounds like you're expressing when I hear that come out of you.
yeah, I think it's a lot to do with, and I've talked to a few people about this lately, like we as men sometimes have this ability or tendency to put on this like shield and act tough and act like we're not allowed to express ourselves and our emotions because we're men. And that's not our faults. It's just society kind of tells us, oh, you're supposed to be tough through all situations. You're not supposed to break down, and I hear and see a lot of men, that are willing to express themselves and break down. So I just think, we have that tough facade up a lot, and I think sometimes that's something I naturally have, but I'm a sensitive, empathetic person at heart. I am very empathetic to others. I just I don't know why I'm not emotional. I'm really goofy, and I think I deflect serious situations with humor a lot of the time, and I've been told by people close to me that that's what I do, even in serious situations, arguments. I just start joking around and turning it into laughter. And I think as a man, I'm just kind of like, no, I don't want to dwell on negative things, so let's have fun. So it's just we have to put that tough shield up all the time, and I think that's why we can't be emotional. And that could be for some women too. I don't want to just just pinpoint men, but it's been difficult to be emotional.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, and I can relate not so much to the not crying, although I've had that conversation with more than one guy, and so I guess I want to say that you're not alone in that one, and I do know from some other people that it's taken them a fair amount of time, but it's happened for them, and once it did, they were it wasn't they were really happy that it did. Let's put it that way. It was like, yes, I found it. You know what I mean? So give yourself some time. Keep plucking away at it, and one day maybe you'll find what you're looking for. But anyways, now it's your turn to lob the question to myself or Robbie. It's up to you. Flip a coin, man.
Robbie, how about you? Would love to hear from you. How are you doing today?
I am, well, first off, I'm excited to be here. I feel like a broken record. That's like just with how busy I've been. Thursday, went to work. Daughter had volleyball game, didn't get home till 10 o'clock that night. Yesterday, she had volleyball practice. Then she plays in the school band and they had a football game, so she had to play the football game, which was really cool. So another go to work and get home after 9 o'clock. So I'm having a hard time regulating my time. As today, I went for a run and it went. I didn't even look what time I started. I had the mileage in my head. Then I got to the halfway point and I was like, shit, I'm not going to make it back in time for this podcast. So I had to message Steve and push this back. So I'm having a really hard time managing my time for myself. Like, I'm really good at managing time for other people, but when it comes to me, I fucking suck at it. I'm just going to tell the truth. And it's getting to the point where I'm frustrated, but I can only be frustrated with myself because I'm doing it to myself. And as a man, my whole thing is protect, provide for my family, which is my daughter and myself. But I'm leaving myself out of it as the people pleaser in me, and it's really starting to like weigh down on me. I can feel it mentally. I'm angry a lot. Frustration goes into anger because I can't do what I want to do, what I need to do for myself. Then I'll beat myself up for it because I feel selfish, saying I need to get out for a run or I need to get out to do this. I need an hour of downtime to do stuff. And when I mean that, most of the time it's just sit in my own shit and reflect. That's how I've got to where I'm at now, is by a lot of reflection and sitting in stuff and navigating, like, why do I feel this way and what can I do about it? And I don't have that time. So once again, that's on me. I got to figure that out. But when I don't have that time, I start to rush stuff. And I don't like to rush stuff. So I'm frustrated.
Create the time by rushing stuff.
Yeah, right. Then I'm unprepared. Or today I had to push the time back on you guys, which is your time. So it's just, I know it's a balance game. And I just got to figure out that balance again. And not again, because it's different all the time, right? In the future, I just need to be more proactive and I guess be real about my time and use my time as where it's needed instead of doing something else.
Yeah, I've been having that problem lately, because I trade stocks every morning. That's my income, day trading and stuff. And so I do a lot of work on my phone and computer pretty much morning to night. But like, I realized last night that I have no organizational skills. with the podcast going on and all that. And I'm like, there's so much more than just recording and just posting it and hoping for the best, you know. And I just didn't have an order of doing things. And it's like, oh, I recorded 3 episodes, but I haven't released. Oh, I'm supposed to do some promo here, talk to this person about another episode. And I was like, I have no order of doing it. It's just all scattered around a calendar. So last night I just decided bullet point list of an in order of things I'm going to do today and this weekend. And I was like, if I do it that way, things will get done and I won't be so running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's to the point where my daughter's this is her first real week of school, so there's that's all new too. So, but it's just I'm gonna have to start doing the same thing, making a list and changing my time to do what I need to do, which means waking up earlier, and all those other things. But I'm gonna lob this over to Steve now. How are you really?
Man, today I'm excited to be here too. I'm excited to hear more, and learn more from Ryan. So there's that. I appreciate you being flexible, Ryan, with Robbie literally running a little bit late, which I thought was hilarious when I called up Ryan, because I called him up. I did the thing instead of sending him a text message. I was like, screw it. Him and I already had a video call. I'm just gonna pick up the phone and call the guy and literally just have a conversation with him on the phone. Like, weird, going back to the early 2000s and the 1990s, picking up the phone, right? And
I appreciated that.
and just saying, hey, listen, this is what's up, and then having a plan. And it was really easy. He knew what the expectation was, and so we were good there. And just like on the podcast, when I was on Ryan's podcast, we talked about how we say sorry too much, and I sent Ryan a message saying thank you for your patience, and I want to say thank you for your flexibility as well. So
Well, thank you.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And then
Communication is everything. I love it.
it is. I don't mind at all if you pick up the phone and call me there. So it was, you're a person that seemed like that was going to be a great thing, and you were going to appreciate that. So I did that. That worked out great. For how I'm doing, I think it's funny that Robbie, you touched on time management, and Ryan, you touched on time management, because my week has been a mind fuck of a nightmare because I am not managing my time properly. And I'm in my second week of school, really the first week of trying to get myself organized with how's the part-time job going to work out? How am I going to get my schoolwork done? What is that going to look like? How am I going to study? When are things due? What are assignments due? What am I going to do after work? I got to record a podcast with Ryan. How am I going to do with the other pod? I've got so much shit that I'm trying to remember all of it. And I'm not doing, it's not even that I'm not doing all of the things, which is true. I'm not doing all of the things. I was sitting down on the couch yesterday with a friend of mine, Julie. She's been on this podcast, and I was telling her all of the stuff I was regurgitating. Like, I got this done this week, this, and then this is all the stuff I still have to do. And she was listening to me regurgitate this like the fourth or fifth time through the week. And I was in a shitty mood. Today, I'm in a way better mood than I was 2 days ago. If you caught me 2 days ago, if we were recording a podcast 2 days ago, like, Ryan, I almost canceled on you because I was just in a shit mood. And I was like, I don't even have the energy for this. And I was like, no, I don't want to cancel on this guy. I know what this is like, and I hate being that guy. So I even had sent Robbie a message. True story. I sent Robbie a message, and I was like, if you're going to be around and if you're free at night, and that dude has no time for anything either. And if you're going to be free at night, maybe we can like pull a switch and we can get Ryan on our podcast so I don't have to freaking talk. And he wasn't free because he ain't got no time either. So anyways, I couldn't avoid the thing that I wanted to avoid because I was tired. I was cranky. And I mean, I don't know if you can notice it on that episode, but I really felt like crap the first half an hour of that episode, maybe 20 minutes. And then my passion for life kind of came back a little bit. It's almost like I just needed to disconnect, do something different, and I started feeling the passion for the things in my life that were working out, and that have worked out in the past, and that are working out great today, and some of my philosophies and stuff like that, and that worked out. It worked great. I think that was like my turning point. Was
Yeah,
actually sitting
I
down.
witnessed the gradual transformation over the course of the episode.
And if you watch that episode, I was it was tough. And then as it went on, I started my heart started matching my mind, and things started just rolling off, and I started free flowing, the internal tension that I was carrying started to get released. But it took me a while to get there. And I woke up on Friday morning in a better mood than I had woken up all day this week, every day this week. And all because someone gave me an opportunity to just talk about stuff. And today we're going to do the same thing. Anyways, so the way I feel right now is much better. I feel a little bit of sense of relief after having the conversation with Julie and regurgitating how my week has gone. I don't know how many times to her. She was like, I think maybe, and I love it when I have somebody in my life that can call me out on my bullshit. And she did. She's like, this is what you're doing. You're constantly rehashing everything over and over again, and then checking stuff off your mental list and adding stuff on, and it's exhausting. And it was exhausting. And it still is. It's just how I've done things forever. It doesn't mean I can't change it. So we had a conversation of what things I could do that would help me organize and block out time and schedule things, so I know where I'm free and I know where I'm not, and I know where I can block out time for school and work and everything else. And so while we were having a conversation, I was like, yeah, what works for you? And she has a calendar, and she sits down. She takes a 1 hour every out of a Saturday or a Sunday and looks at what her week looks like next week, and starts blocking out the time for the things that it's important, and she knows where she's free and she knows where she isn't. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if it's going to work for me or not, but for a $9.99 book on Amazon, or calendar book on Amazon, I went through a couple of different iterations, but for $9.99 and having it delivered for free, and have it show up in a couple of days, and it might show up tomorrow, it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot for me to try something different than what I'm doing right now, rather than going, okay, in 3 weeks I'm going to get more used to this routine. And so every semester so far, whenever it starts, I get anxious because I don't know what the future is going to look like, and that's exactly where anxiety comes from. And I don't know where my time is going to go. I don't know how to organize it. There's a whole bunch of stress, and I get really shitty for like 2 weeks, and I'd really like to be able to understand that and do something different. And I've done this 3 times now, so it's not like it's new. Right? So I need to do something different. I need to try something different. So
Hey, Steve, I got a question.
yeah,
I'm gonna interrupt you. I got a question
yeah, go for it.
because this relates to me. Do you feel that if you have to schedule everything in your life, that you're not living your life?
When I do that, I feel like I lack freedom.
Yep. I feel the same way. If I have to manage every waking minute of my day, I am not living for myself.
And then I think what might happen, and it'll be interesting to see what might happen if I start scheduling my life like that. The rigidity that it's gonna feel like is gonna bring me some discomfort. I think it's also gonna make me more productive. So there's
Yeah.
the trade-off of, because I'm organizing the shit in my mind, I feel like I have the freedom of the decision, which I really don't. I think it's false.
Yeah. So something that I think we should, all three of us are struggling with time management. And Steve and I have done this before. And we've had some cool benefits from it. September's Monday.
Damn it.
What if all-
I knew you were
what
going
if
to
all-
do this.
What if all three of us hold each other accountable and schedule our time better in some kind of fashion?
It's a really good idea.
Ryan, you down?
I am down, actually. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea because, like, when I look at this bullet point list on my phone of things I need to do, it still stresses me out. So I'm like,
I need
I
to
can
get-
do all that in an hour, but I have a week to do all that. So time management is needed.
So I've done this and I've put shit on my I'm getting off my phone and getting on paper. For the reason is if I get on my phone and I see the list, unless it's just going to the grocery store, there's a fucking notification, there's a something else, and there's a something else, and there's a something else, and I'm like, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, what's that? And I'll start crossing off the shit on that list of stuff, and then not do the thing that I want to do. So
Yep. Phone is
that's why it's like a book, paper. I can take this thing and fucking throw it over here, and
I got to go to the store today, so I'm just going to buy a day planner.
yeah, and I got one that has
Maybe I will too.
every day of the week in the 2 pages, so I can, and it's got hour time blocks from like 7 in the morning to 8 at night or something like that,
Yeah.
which is gonna be fine with me. And so I can look and visualize what my entire week is gonna look like in 2 pages.
I like it.
I think if we're holding each other accountable, I'm going to go buy a day planner today and send you guys a picture and show that I'm using it.
When,
Yeah, we can just
when
do
mine
that.
shows up, I will send you a picture too.
Yeah, we can
Deal.
just do that.
And then we're gonna have to
plan
get
our
Ryan back on at the end of September, and we're gonna this is what we should do. Like, really honest, we should get Ryan back on at the end of September or beginning of October, and say, how has your life changed because you've tried this and you've stuck with it for this long?
It's good. And to talk about the results. That would be awesome.
Yeah, why not? Does that sound good, Robbie?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'm game. Yeah.
Well, we'll all have something to share on what worked and what didn't work, what maybe you'll try differently, or what we learned along the way. I'm all for this. This is great.
Perfect. It's going to be a good month.
Something that simple. Okay. All right. Now that we're done this is half an hour of this of this podcast. Not entirely half an hour, but a good 15 or 20 minutes about a conversation about how are you really. Like, I feel like it's so important to just talk about that and get it off your chest, and I feel like it really opens it up to the next part of our conversation, is why we have Ryan here. And we have got Ryan here because he wants to talk about and share about, and we'd love for him to talk about and share about struggles with, what's the words I'm looking for? Expectations from our really high expectations from our fathers, and what some crippling anxiety can do to you, and how that's been in your life. So, Ryan, now the show is yours. Thank you for being here, and have at her, man.
Since you guys edit, is it okay if I take a big sip of coffee? I don't want to mess up. I don't know if you guys care. But...
No.
You can take a big. We're not going to edit it out either. You're fine. It's absolutely good.
Okay.
You can hear. I'll take a drink.
Is it vaping okay or no?
You're fine.
Do whatever
Okay.
you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on and asking this question because it's something I haven't actually been able to discuss. You know, I go to a ton of AA meetings. I have a lot of friends that I confide in, and I've never discussed my crippling anxiety with a lot of people because I was too anxious to share it. And also the expectations I had from my dad growing up. Uh, you know, if he hears this, he knows we have a great relationship now, and it's taken a long way to get there on both sides. But growing up was very difficult because my parents they got divorced when I was 7, and my only memories of them being married were fighting and you know all the cuss words in the book were all the things I witnessed. My mother crying, my dad throwing things. That there was a lot of drugs and alcohol involved in their relationship, and I just remember spending a lot of nights not being able to sleep, crying myself to sleep, having to have my mother scratch my back until I fell asleep. And I remember my dad was always really good to me, and I had a good relationship with him, but I was also intimidated by him just because he's a pretty intimidating guy, personality wise. He's alpha male type, and I wouldn't have considered myself much of an alpha. You know, I wouldn't say a beta, but I just said, you know, it made me feel like I was lesser than or had to listen or else. And that's how it should be, obviously, with parents. I mean, as far as abiding rules and all that growing up. But the older I got, especially when I moved in with him. So I lived with my mother. She had full custody until I was 12, and we lived in a very uh, bad situation for me. I had a little sister that she had had with her boyfriend, and we moved in with the boyfriend. And the entire time I lived there for 3 years, I had to stay downstairs in a basement, a dark, depressing basement that wasn't even finished. It was constantly under construction, spiders everywhere. Um, so they had their little family upstairs in the house, my mother, her boyfriend, and my sister. I'm sorry going off track, but it is leading back to my dad. Uh, and they had their family upstairs. My mother would bring me dinner downstairs. I would eat by myself in front of my TV. I'd stay up all night and go to school. And in school, I would be very socially anxious because I wouldn't have much social time at home. So my self-esteem was really low, and I wasn't making friends at this new school with a bunch of rich kids because I got into a private school and I just didn't fit in. And uh, once I finally started confiding in my dad about what was going on, because only saw him on weekends, I said, you know, my mom and her, you know, her boyfriend, they fight all the time. My mother's always drinking. I'm not even like really allowed to spend time with them. I'm always just down in this basement all the time, crying myself to sleep every night. Uh, you know, and my dad and I got along at the time. I only saw him on weekends, so when I saw him, we had a great time. He would take me to play baseball, this and that. And so he said, you know what? While your mother's out of town, because my mother and her boyfriend and my sister went off to Hawaii. Obviously, they didn't bring me. And he said, while they're out of town in Hawaii, why don't we pack up your stuff? You move in with me. And I was 12 years old. And I was really excited. I mean, I obviously was worried about leaving my mother because I still loved her through all of this. And she and I have a great relationship to this day. You know, she knows she wasn't the perfect mother. There was a lot of alcohol, a lot of neglect in some ways, but I love her to this day. So I was worried. I packed all my things, moved out while they were out of town, and as soon as they got back to town, I get a frantic phone call from my mother, and she's bawling, you know, saying, "Come back. Why did you leave? You know, why did you just leave?" You know, I was like, I wasn't happy. I'm in a basement all the time. I just want to be with my dad. And he was remarried at the time to a lady who I really respected and appreciated, and she played a very good motherly role in my life as far as eating healthy, having table manners, etiquette, things like that, things I wasn't learning at the other households. So I was excited to move in with my dad. And once I started going into middle school over there, eighth grade, I started my dad started to see that some of my behavior at my mother's house was I had so much freedom. I could disappear for days at my mother's house, stay at friends' houses. They wouldn't even know I was gone because they never paid attention to me. And so I had all this. So when I got to my dad's, where there was structure that I was not used to, I was basically already trying to rebel, but not intentionally. But it looked like rebelling just because I was so used to the freedom. I wouldn't come home at curfew because I never had a curfew. So it started to create this tension between my dad and I and my stepmother. And then for the first time in my life, I was actually like, battling my dad face to face sometimes. And it got more tense throughout that year and freshman year of high school, where he, had he started these little things like, when I would go into a social situation or was trying to work with him. He was in the ski sports industry, the winter sports industry, and he wanted me to work with him as my first job, and he would criticize me on how I dealt with people, and he would make me feel like lesser than in a way because I didn't know how to shake a man's hand and look him in the eye properly, or if I didn't talk enough while he was introducing me to somebody and I wasn't sociable enough, he would just say, "What the fuck's your problem?" Sorry, is there bad language on the show? He'd say, "What?" Okay. He'd just say like, "What the f's your?" Oh, I think it's muted on your end. I can't hear you.
It is a well placed f bomb is
Oh,
is absolutely acceptable.
okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, he would say, "What the fuck
Don't
are
say
you
sorry.
doing? Are you socially inept or something?" Oh yeah, no more apologies. That's something I've been working on for 2 days. Ever since we had that conversation. But yeah, he said, "What the fuck's your problem? Uh, what are you, socially inept or something?" And things like this would crush me because I had already gone through bullying at that other school I was at, and now I got my dad calling me socially inept. So it made me start to question myself uh, when I was dealing with anybody, trying to make friends and stuff. So it caused me to start rebelling more, and it even channeled into sports. Sports. I was a good athlete. Uh, I think he wanted me to be good at baseball, but I was really good at soccer, and he was not a soccer guy. So it would get to the point where it's like I would be playing baseball, and he would talk to my coach or my mother and be like, "Well, if he's not starting, I don't think I'm going to go to the game," and this that kind of thing. And if it's soccer, he was supportive, but I think in a lot of ways he wanted me to be good at baseball, and I could never hit. I was always batting eight or nine. I was a pretty good defensive player, but never really living up to expectations. And he would say things when we lived right behind the baseball field in high school, and he would say things like, like, "Son, do you hear the crack of the bat down there? That's somebody who's practicing and wants to be better. That guy wants to be good at this." And I would just look like, "Okay, well, I'm just sitting in my room doing homework. I'm trying to do well in school." So it was just like I got, pretty good grades in high school. I was good at sports, but I just felt like I was criticized a lot. A lot of, I laugh about it now, and he and I would laugh about it now, but I would be in the batter's box, trying to focus on getting better at hitting the ball, and he'd be talking in my ear from behind the batter's box and be saying, "Ryan, keep your eye on the ball. Don't swing at that. Don't swing." And it's like, I'm already nervous enough, and I got,
And now you're just living in your own head, and somebody else
Yeah.
is living in your own head. Talk about
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah, and then I drop a ball in the outfield, and I see him do this like big shrug thing. Like, I was always trying to live up to those expectations athletically and all that. But he was proud of me in a lot of ways, but it just got kind of exhausting trying to do that. So um, once I went off to college, well, that went off all the way till high school. I mean, in high school, when cell phones became a thing, uh, he had some a strict rule about it. He actually had me sign a contract to get my first cell phone, that my GPA, batting average, everything was supposed to be a certain amount in order to keep the cell phone. So that was interesting. So I signed the contract. I broke the contract just because I stopped answering his calls once I went off to college. And when I went to college, I was so stressed by such a dysfunctional household that I was in um, throughout throughout my high school years. I mean, there were some instances where he and I got in legitimate fist fights. Actually fought each other face to face. Fought. The older I got, the more I could fight back, and I think that kind of, I don't know, that didn't scare him or anything, but I mean, the first time I beat him in basketball, he never played me in basketball again. So as soon as I got big enough to fight, I think that thing. So I mean, that was something that kind of broke me. You know, like getting physical with your father is not something I'm proud of, and something he was proud of to this day. You know, I know he feels remorse, but it's just we battled each other, and I did my best to be a good son, but I did rebel. You know, I did get in trouble often. We had a very dysfunctional household. With my stepmother had cancer. I think my dad, I think he was avoiding the house for a while, traveling a lot more than he probably was supposed to be for work, and there was just a lot going on. And once college came around, I kind of disconnected. That's when I started drinking, and that's when I stopped answering his calls. Even though he was contributing to my college education financially, I just kind of avoided anything from back home because I wanted to finally be independent, and that independence, you know, involved drinking, partying, girlfriends, all that. And you know, his expectations for me were to finish in 4 years. You know, it took me 5.5 because of all the partying, and that's my own fault. But I just remember, you know, he's brought it up since then. You know, that he was disappointed that college was just one big kind of a hiatus or something where I just disappeared for 5.5 years. And you know, it's yeah, and in the last, you know, in my adulthood, it's been difficult too, because I've been, not to make this about recovery and addiction, but off and on a roller coaster ride of recovery and relapse and things like that. And it's affected our relationship, obviously, because every time I did go into a dark place, you know, he had the habit of sending some of the meanest text messages on the face of the earth, you know, calling me very, very bad names that broke me to the point where I showed some people the message and they cried because of the message. I didn't cry, but they cried. They're just like, I can't believe a father would say that to his son. And, you know, an example of the word that I remember is a pathetic fucking mongrel. And that's just not the words I really wanted to hear. It didn't really boost my self-esteem when I read that. And that message was sent to multiple people, including my ex-wife, and it was terrible. So it was just one of those things where I think he wanted the best for me, and I think he does to this day, and he's a great support system right now. And I love our relationship, but it was difficult growing up in that, feeling like I was disappointing him on a regular basis, even when I think I was doing a lot of good things with my life. You know, I took school seriously. I really wanted to become a sports writer, and I knew that made him happy. And I broke that passion to major in psychology. And just because I lost interest in writing when I was in college, and I already had psych credits, so it made it easier to graduate too. But I know my intentions were always good, and I felt like, but I still felt like everything I did was a screw up, and it made me want to avoid him and hide. And like he says, I would put my face in the sand like an ostrich every time I was doing something wrong. And he's right in that sense, because I would hide, And up until recently, the last, I would say 5 6 months, being, almost a year in sobriety, finally, therapy and all the things I'm doing these days, up until then, I would hide. I would, because of the relationship with my dad, every time I would slip up or be doing something that isn't ethical or good, or maybe not the right thing, I would hide. I'll turn my phone off. I'll put it on do not disturb. I will not respond to a certain message because of that. And I realize that's not the way to live life, and I shouldn't let one relationship that intimidated me affect how I treat my new relationships and people I care about, things I care about, not let it affect me as much. So it's been just a really hard transition getting out of that mindset where I feel like I need to do things to make another person happy instead of just doing it for myself. Self-preservation is so important. And in the past 5 6 months is when I'm finally actually doing things for myself confidently, with conviction, and not regretting it or feeling guilt. But I know all of those things stems back to my relationship with my dad, and that relationship, it's one of the most important in my life right now. The fact that it's good is probably a big reason why my life is so good, because we talk every day. He gives me advice on everything now. I think in the last few years, he's found himself. He's married to the right person. I think everybody can improve regardless of how old you are. He's 75 years old, and he is not the same person he was when I was in high school. And it just shows me that not only I can change because of addiction and working on myself and growth, but even a man who's 75 now, who was very rough on me and my sister growing up, he can change too. So it's just, it did affect me. But if you want me to go into the anxiety thing, I can, or if you want to speak on what I just talked about.
There's a few things I want to hit on from your story with your father. It makes me angry hearing this, that your father would treat you that way. Being a father myself, my relationship with my father is non-existent. My father was the exact opposite of your father. He was just not around, abusing drugs, women, you name it. He had no expectations for me. I have no expectations for him still to this day. But being a father myself, and those years when you're growing into a young adult are some of the most important years of your life. And I can't force anything on my daughter. I have to let her be and figure out herself. I can give her some guidance and all those other things, but my love and support is what I give my daughter. I have some expectations with school. Those are very simple. Go to school, get good grades, be a good person. With her sports, try it, keep doing your thing. You're going to like stuff, you're not going to like stuff. It's part of life. But how much, those, we can go into it a little bit, but it sounds like his relationship with his father wasn't good. So what he was doing to you was what he knew.
Yeah, I can clarify. His dad was in a wheelchair until and passed away when he was 10 years old. So his dad was unable to do anything with him. So my grandmother, my Nana, may she rest in peace, she passed away at 105 years old a few years ago. She was very close with him and raised him, but the dad, he says, based on what I know from my grandmother, was in a wheelchair the whole time my dad was born, since my dad was born. And my dad used to rebel and hated the fact that his dad couldn't spend time with him, so he would do things like open up windows when it was cold because his dad couldn't get up and close them. So he would rebel in those ways. So that was their relationship. There was no relationship. His dad was basically, yeah. So
that makes okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because that makes a lot of sense now. Because he essentially grew up with no father.
Yeah.
He probably has the resentment of his father being in a wheelchair. Was never there. Died when he was 10. And this just means he's taking it out on you. He didn't know how to be a father, so he had these expectations of what his father is supposed to be to him, and now he's putting that on you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's rough. but that makes me feel better. I'm not so angry anymore because just sending my daughter a text would just break me like that. I could
Receiving
never
one
do that.
from your dad like that would like, I could probably handle it today, but I wouldn't. I mean, it would still break your freaking heart. So that's got to be even in active addiction. Like you also just don't have to hit send, you know? So
I
I
know.
mean that messages like that are a lot of pain on his end is just really poorly expressed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I showed it to some people close to me, and they read it, and they just looked at me speechless, and I was speechless. Um, you know, the names I read in that message, they broke me. I was driving for Uber as a little side hobby at the time, and I remember I had to pull over and just read it, and I sat there speechless, and then I saw all these other phone numbers on top of it, and I was like, to send this to me is one thing, but to let a bunch of other people know that you're sending this to me in case I blocked him is why he sent it to other people, uh, was shocking to me. So I contacted those other people and I'm like, did you receive that? And they said, oh my God. So, yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I got a question for you. And as I was listening to you talk, and one of the things you said is I have a great relationship with my father now, which I think is phenomenal. Uh, but how did you find the courage to turn around and say, okay, I want to start repairing this relationship? Who's the one? Because normally there's one person that'll be the lifeline, cast the line, whatever, and see if it gets caught. Was it you or was it him that reached out and said like that wanted to try and repair this, or how did that go about? Because it takes a lot of courage to do that. When you, I mean, we all grow and change, and sometimes we can grow and change in different ways. But
Yeah.
what spurred it?
I think it started when, um, about 5 years ago, when I was going through a divorce, and in our divorce, prior to kind of getting ready to be separated, my ex-wife and I were partying a lot, doing a lot of drugs, and my dad's and I relationship was just so off and on. Every time I'd see him, I would have probably been off and on using, so I would see this look of disappointment in his eyes all the time. And a big part of me would be blaming him every time I saw him. I would dread it. I would always be late because I would be in my car drinking beforehand because I would be so stressed to see him. And I would see this look of disappointment. So towards the end of my marriage, I don't know what happened, but I got this new job that got me on track. I cut down my drinking. I started exercising like crazy again all the time, like I had back in college, and I got in great shape. My mind was in a good place, and I started talking to my dad more often on the phone, and he was, giving me advice on how to handle my divorce and separation, and he was just helping me with that. And the more like sober minded I got, even though I wasn't fully sober, the better our relationship was. And then finally, he told me that since I live over in Idaho, and at the time he lived in Seattle area, he said that he and his wife were going to Coeur d'Alene, which is about 2 hours away, for an overnight. And they asked me, they hadn't seen me in like 3-4 years. And he said, hey, would you like to meet up? And I was just kind of nervous, and I still went to go meet up on my own since I was getting ready to be separated from my ex-wife. So she didn't go with me. And I just told her, I'm nervous to see my dad, but, I had been working on myself for the past year, and talking to him on a regular basis. So I was like, not as nervous. So I go see him, and I remember I went to their hotel, and the elevator opened, and he and his wife walked out, and like the look on in their faces, his face was like the first time I didn't see a look of disappointment. It was like he looked at me like, wow, Jesus, you look amazing. And that just gave me like some feeling of satisfaction, like, oh my God, I've actually made this man happy for the first time in my freaking life. And it felt so satisfying. I just never had that feeling before. I mean, he's been proud of me. I've seen him clapping like crazy and dancing when I hit a game-winning hit in baseball and a game-winning goal in soccer. But this was a look as an adult where I was just like, holy crap, I've made it. I've made him proud. And just because I had been taking care of myself and I was actually making really good progress in life, and that was about 5 years ago. And since then, I had relapsed a couple of times. Every time I had relapsed, I just kind of disappeared because I know he doesn't want to talk to me when I'm using, and I would still get those angry messages. But this time around, I think it was a combination of the both of us. When I had told him that I'm going to rehab and I'm going by choice, I actually didn't tell him until I was in rehab for one week. And I called him, and I hadn't talked to him for a few months because I had relapsed. And I said, Dad, I'm actually going, I want to stop for good this time, and I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing this for me, and I'm ready. And I think he, instead of getting upset with me, he just said like, hey, I am proud of you. I wish you would have told me before you left, but I'm like, I wasn't in the mind place to tell you. And I want to keep talking to you while you're in treatment. And every time I called him while I was in treatment, we just had such good conversations and laughter, and like the relationship felt just very natural for once. And I don't think it was just because of sobriety. I just noticed a different approach in his voice, that he was calmed down, like he wasn't capable of being an angry man anymore. Like I just don't see it. Like he just seems so like he'd been working on himself. And I think it was a combination of the fact that he and his wife moved to a smaller town in Idaho, and they just they have different surroundings. I think he's in a really healthy marriage. I think he's found God in a lot of ways because he talks about prayer a lot more. So I think he worked on himself, a combination of me working on myself, and I think we know how to communicate with each other now, because even yesterday, he was giving me some pretty advice about something kind of difficult, and he said some things that were kind of direct about how to manage, the podcast and things like that. And then I was like, okay, I took it as advice. And then a few hours later, he calls. He's like, I don't want to, I don't want to control your life or tell you how to do things, this and that. And I was like, Jesus, this guy really is thinking about my feelings, and that's really cool. So it was just a big change. So to answer your question, I think it was a combination of both, but I think more so me, I'll take a lot of the credit just because I know for a fact that my life feels more complete if he and I have a relationship, and that's important to me. If we didn't have a relationship, I feel like there would be something missing. I mean, despite all the problems that happened, I know he loves me, and that's most important. If even through all the pain and the hardship we went through in my childhood and adulthood, for some reason I always knew he still loved me and wanted the best for me. Like I know he cared, and that's enough for me to want to make the relationship work, as opposed to getting sober, becoming the person I want to be, and having him be absent. And so I think definitely the relationship is most important to me. I think it's important to him too, but I think we're both in the right mindset now to have a healthy relationship.
Great answer. Part circumstantial, part that's just where you are in your life, and part it sounds like his heart has softened.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's so calm now. We laugh so hard on the phone. It's like, I don't know. It's like we're both in such a good place, and it's like being friends with my dad for once. And it's like it doesn't feel forced. There's been times where I felt like it felt forced, and this time around, it feels just very natural and good. And I'm not saying I require it to maintain my sobriety, or I require it to be happy or anything. I don't require that relationship to get through the day. I just know that it contributes to my happiness.
For sure. I think healthy relationships overall, ones that we are actively involved in, contribute to our happiness. It's that level connection. Right? If we're connected to a really poor, shitty relationship, our level of happiness is going to reflect the connection to a poor relationship. We all know what connecting to a poor relationship looks like. Ex-wives, blah, 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 blah. We all have one. We also had those friends that we probably shouldn't have had as friends. And that contributes to how you feel on almost a daily basis, depending on how well connected you are. And one of the things I have found is if I surround myself with people that are trying to become healthier people and people that are trying to become better people and people that are basically just those two, if they're trying to do those two things, there's a really high likelihood that they're going to want the same for me.
Yeah.
If it's just those two factors. Because people that bring other people down generally they're doing that to try and lift themselves up. They're missing something. And I mean, we're all still guilty of putting other people down to make ourselves feel better. I'm not saying I'm a saint, because I think we all do it, not near as much as what we did before. I mean, it's still a reflection of me.
Yep.
But I guess what I'm getting at there is the emotional level of the people that we're connected to makes a very big difference in our lives.
It does.
Yeah, I
Do you
think.
think I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, do you think how we are as adults? Do you think like it really does reflect, like if I was growing up, always feeling like I was disappointing my dad, and always, every time anything was less than perfect, I felt like I failed because I disappointed him. Do you think that carries into adulthood, where I set these high standards for myself? So every time I was less than perfect, I'm like, oh, everybody's disappointed in me. Do you think
What
that's
Yeah, so there's the internal voice that extended from how you felt in those moments that now you're carrying. It has got a different voice. It's got your own, right? Now instead of his.
Yeah,
But it's still that story. Go ahead, Rami.
I think for me, it's like you don't know any other way, right? If you're a disappointment, you're a disappointment.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell yourself that if you're getting your disappointment all the time from a family member or a friend or whatever, you're going to think anytime happens, you're like, I'm a disappointment.
Yeah.
For me, it was a little different. I am a people pleaser and working on that because I didn't get what I needed growing up as a kid. Just, abandoned from father's side. So I'm always looking for something that I never got, but I'm willing to give that to everyone because I think inside of me, if I'm giving that to you, that's, what I wanted. So I'm going to give that to you. Then I forget about myself. And it's it's not the same type of wiring, but same level, like in my story, in my head, a lot of times is like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Same thing with disappointment, right? I'm not good enough. No one loves me. Same thing. I'm a disappointment to my father. He doesn't love me. So it's the same type of wiring. And a lot of us numbed our pain by using because we didn't know any other way. And it carries definitely in adulthood. And I think for myself, in adulthood is where I got to the point where I didn't want to deal with that shit anymore. And it was a lot of things that made that happen. Like you made the choice to stop, with your addiction. But I just kept noticing, I think as the older we get, we notice that same story and we keep playing it. And it's a big circle. Sometimes it's really small, sometimes it gets really big. And you're like, oh, it's popped up again. Here we are. We're in the same place I was 5 years ago. What did it say? I felt the same exact way. Why do I feel this way? That's where I'm sure where a lot of the anxiety comes from too, because you knew, right?
Yeah. The anxiety, I was just thinking while you're talking, there was so many little things that I can look back at that led to my anxiety, where like I would be in my room playing video games, and if he walked by, I would freak out because I'd be like, you're supposed to get your ass outside and play like regular kids, go ride a bike or something, you know. But I'd feel anxious, or I'd be doing my homework out in the room with the Seattle Supersonics game on, and I would just be worried, like, oh crap, I should turn the TV off because he's going to say I'm watching TV while I'm doing homework. And I just started to feel on edge all the time, and it led to just anxiety when he wasn't even around.
Yeah, because you're, I know with me, you know, it's like my dad never wanted to have those talks with me unless he was drunk and high on cocaine. And it'd be 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be laying in bed, and I'd be awake going, I can't fall asleep because he might come in and wake me up and have one of those talks. And I knew something was wrong with him because he wasn't in his right mind. So there was many times when I was stay at his house, I'd just way awake all night. So scared that he was going to come have a talk with me. So it got to the point where I couldn't even be in that house anymore because the anxiety was, you know, so bad of him having a talk with me. Then it just kept building. And 8th grade, you know, I remember you make a mistake and it's the worst thing in the world. You beat yourself up over it. Then I'd play all these stories through my head of what could happen. Did it ever happen? Fuck no, it never happened. None of those stories never fucking happened. But I could sit there and probably come up with 20 different stories every night while I'm laying in bed of what's going to happen. And it's weird that, you know, how a parent or a friend or anything like that can make us get to that place of fear.
Yeah.
What drives me now, a lot of motivation, is like when I start to feel these fears, I go, what is this fear? Am I causing it? If I'm causing it, it's one thing. If it's some external fake source out there that I think's causing it, I have to look deep inside and go, where's this stemming from? And I can usually, Steve knows this, like in the beginning I was freaking lots of issues. Now I can analyze stuff. Every once in a while, though, I'll send Steve a thing and be like, hey, dude, I'm tripping on something. And Steve's like, well, what haven't you done this week? Well, I haven't paid my bill. Whatever, I'm just making stuff up. But
Yeah, it's true though.
it is true. So,
What are you avoiding?
yeah, and we, you know, once you can like realize what you're avoiding and you start pinning those back to your childhood. And I know for me, it's like, holy shit, I avoided a whole lot of stuff for so many years. Then, nope, I'm not avoiding that anymore. I'm going to face right into it. Then that's where the motivation and the power comes from.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he was tough on me. It's, I know every time I do have a moment where, even nowadays, you know, I think back, like when I have moments where my confidence is low, where my insecurities start to come out, I start to look back and I'm like, how much did my childhood play a role in this? And I think putting that together sometimes help you overcome those things.
I know for me, it's really the only road I can go down now, because with what I know, our parents both got divorced at about the same age, a very hard age when your parents break away for that whole thing. We didn't know what was going on. We just found out that our parents didn't love each other. Then we go down that whole road. Why don't they love each other? We don't know any of that stuff. Very hard age. Then when we go through the same stuff, your childhood was kind of like mine with, my mother was there, but my dad wasn't there, dating women, drugs, all the other stuff, knockout fights, all that stuff. So you start to pick and choose what you want at a very young age. And I picked my mom and the security of my mom. But what came from my mom was not how to be a man, not how to treat a woman. It was all those mother nurturing things. And that's where my people pleasing came from, was because I always think in my head, what would my mom do for me? And it's always nurturing. Then if I go, what would my dad do for me? It'd be, well, he wouldn't show up. So, you know, then now, anytime I've got something going on, I go back to that 5-year-old self. It's like, start from there. And it just works for me. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but it hurts. It's very deep.
Anytime you can connect behavior that you do today with an event in your past, you can grab onto it and ask yourself the question, is this a belief I want to carry with me today? Because it's a belief that I created somewhere along the lines. It's an agreement that I made with myself silently through a whole bunch of other actions that I continue to carry. Is this a belief that I want to have determine how I'm going to react to future situations like this in my life? And a lot of the times, this is where I get to. Like, okay, my 5-year-old self, yeah, I'm tripping on it right now. I'm tripping out. My 43-year-old self is tripping on something that my 5-year-old self is reacting to. Okay, cool. This is a fantastic opportunity for me to say, what do I want this to look like now? Because the grown-up part in me feels a hell of a lot safer than it did 4 years ago when I was 39. And my sobriety plays into this too. There's my self-confidence is greater. My ability to make a decision and own that decision is greater. The ability for me to say, recognize this is my self-talk. These are the things that I'm saying to myself right now. Is this really a healthy message? How can I change this message to help bring me to the place where I want to be? I still have to acknowledge it, but my biggest critic is still myself. And so if I can take that back, and this is generally the conversation that I have. Like, I can even look at the time management part. What belief do I have that stops me from doing the thing that I believe is healthier for me? I've got something in there. I've got some agreement. Yeah, perfectly. My mind is good enough to do this. And then I have to admit that it probably isn't, and that I need to probably organize myself in a different way. There's a whole little mini belief system in there that reacts to my external world. And I have the control and the power of saying, this is not something I want to have to experience anymore. So I can take control of it, or I can let it control me and determine how I'm going to act. I've clearly done this at least 3 times in the same space. When it comes to the beginning of every semester, I stress right out. There's a whole package in there of maybe I can deal with this in a more healthy way. And if I allow myself to explore it and be open to any other ideas, then I can change my beliefs and my habits. But the hardest thing I've found so far to change any of that is the only way to really do it is to action my way through it to a point where I almost get blue in the face. Like it is over and over and over and over and over again. Where if I believe it enough, and I think if you read the book, the 4 Agreements, which is one of the books that I've read that has really helped to change the way I see things and the way I deal with what's going on inside. And it really helps you grasp, like, if you put so much effort into creating this belief system, there is a level of effort that is greater than the level of effort you've put into creating it, that is going to help rewire that in a different way. And if you think about how hard sobriety really is, and to turn that around, to let go of the attachment to the substance and the attachment to the soothing that I got from it. you're rewriting an entire belief system that you have. And that goes with anything, any habit that you're trying to break. You're rewriting an entire belief system. I think we're all entirely capable and possible of that. And we are, our thinking and our mind and our actions are extremely powerful at talking to the back subconscious and moving it to the front. Like, no, this is just something I want to do now. And if you just go and do it over and over again, you will create the thing that you want to create. The hardest part is the effort that it takes to overwrite. It's not like a file on a computer where you can just hit erase and then start typing and rewriting it. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to like hit delete for every freaking letter, right? The whole, 10-page essay, and you have to delete every freaking letter along the way with another action. And it's wild, but it's also completely transformative.
Well, that's the great thing, is that you can go back and revise your life like a paper sometimes, You can edit it. You can change some things. I mean, I know the past is the past, but you can rewrite background to create who you are now. Like when I got sober, the first thing I said was, I feel like a 16-year-old getting their driver's license. I'm like, wow, this is exciting. I get to see life from a different point of view now. All the opportunities.
Felt like a teenager all over again. It was wild.
Yeah.
I was getting a little emotional when you were talking about that 5-year-old boy there, Steve. And this is one thing that I want, where we were talking about when we go back to figure out when that, when that event occurred that changed the course of our lives. For me, thinking about that 5-year-old boy, it's very sad, unlovable, wanting attention, a lot of things. And I know a lot of times if I could go back to that 5-year-old boy and just give that 5-year-old boy a hug, what would I tell that 5-year-old boy? And this is where I have a hard time sometimes. It's the people pleasing has been wired in my head, so I want to give that 5-year-old boy comfort. I want to make him feel loved. I want to do all the things that I didn't get. But that 5-year-old boy would still be where I'm at today because of that people pleasing I gave that 5-year-old boy. So what do I have to do? I have to change that course of the wiring in my brain. I got to delete some stuff, add some stuff. Because if I go back and did the same thing, I'd be in the same place. So that's when it gets really hard to work on yourself. When you go back and you're like, what am I missing when I was 5? The love from my dad. Okay, what can I do with that? And there's ways to go forward. But I can't go back and try to use what I've learned now to make it better, if that makes sense. Because I'm just going to end up in the same spot. And I think a lot of us do that subconsciously without knowing it. Then we have to run from our problems. And the hard part is when you go back there, right? And you go, I want to feel loved. Okay, cool. What do I got to do? Then that's where the work begins. And that's the hard part, right? Sitting in that and going through all that. There's going to be a lot of bad times. There's going to be a lot of good times. But you got to work your way through it. But rewriting or rewiring whatever you want to do is the hard part. And we got to be there for other men and support each other with that. Because when you get taken back to that and we want to help you grow, give you support, we got to let you know it's okay that 5-year-old boy felt that way. Not right or wrong. Where do you want to go? This is where I want to go. Okay, let us help you get there. We're not going to drive for you, but we're going to do some little things. We'll be there for you. We tell you we love you. We care about you. Ask you how you really are doing, those things. And I, that work in between there gets lost a lot of times, I think, in people's heads because, like you ran, you saw some light, right? You saw that 16-year-old boy. You're like, oh shit, this is a whole new world.
Yeah.
Then that 16-year-old boy's like, oh, what do I do now? I don't have anyone. I lost all my friends. Family members don't talk to me anymore. People at work think I'm weird now, or I'm just, using those things. And I think that's a real important thing. We got to support each other, and that in between there, when you find that, I got to be there for you.
Yeah. No, I was curious, like when you talk about the people pleasing thing and like how that was kind of led to by your childhood, and like, is it okay like when you're growing and trying not to make that a part of your personality, like to maintain some of that to still be there for people, but you just want to preserve yourself first? Is that
This is a
Oh
great
yeah,
question.
like this is this. I mean, do you want to answer that one? Go for it, Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got
we'll
an
both
answer
give-
for that one too.
We both have good answers for this. So, short thing when I got sober, it was all about sobriety. Then it was all about people pleasing because I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was continuously dumping out my cup and never filling it. I was giving everything I had to anyone. You had a problem, we'll sit there and talk. But it wasn't helping me. I was helping someone else. I thought it was helping me because I was like, oh, this person needs help. I'm here for you. So that's a balance that I've definitely had to redefine. And for me now is, to be honest, if you're playing the victim, go and keep playing the victim. I don't have any time for you. But if you're going to surrender and open up, I will be there for you. But you got to be there for a little bit for me too. So that's a very fine balance that I have to play now. And Steve knows when I get there and too much, I'll go silent. I will go completely silent. I won't talk to anyone. I'm in a bad place because my cup is so empty, I can't even fill it up. Then I have to ask for help to fill my cup back up. So that's a great question. And I don't have an answer besides I have to find balance for myself. That's where I'm at now. Maybe,
Good one.
I'll have some other answers later, but right now it's with that being a big issue throughout my life, it's just the navigating and the balance.
We got to remember we're the main character in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah. You've also dealt with all of your own shit for the last how long? I'm 43 and a half years old almost, right? Like I've dealt with all of it. So have you. It's pretty incredible if you think about it. Like the amount you've been through and the amount you've made it through. To your question, I think there's parts of our personality because I consider like there's the people pleasing part, but there's that's also a part of how you operate and a part of where your comfort zone is. So part of that is the kindness that the people pleaser in you wants to give. I'm gonna take this a little bit off the people pleaser side, but I'm gonna bring this into me being. I don't know if it's entirely a people pleaser, but I consider myself kind of a gullible person. I will like and it's in to me and it feels childish. And I think if I was to there's my balance that needs to happen in there. And I think Robbie, you nailed it when it's like there's a balance in there because it's a part of you, and there's parts of you that you just don't want to have to give up, and so you go far one way, and you're like, okay, I pulled the rubber band way too far this way. I'm way too people pleasing, and it's affecting my mental health. And then you're gonna pull it the other way, and you're gonna go too far, and you're not gonna do it anymore, and you keep stretching and pulling and trying to find in that middle relaxed space. For me, it's being gullible and believing everything people tell me. And because I want to trust. Like there's an innateness in me that I believe there is a good in all of the people. So I don't believe, and like Robbie, you'll tell me that. Julia will be like, yeah, Steve doesn't think anyone's gonna fuck him around, and it's true, right? Like I don't believe someone is just gonna come and maliciously do that sort of thing. It is a thing, and that's why I believe I call it a gullibility,
Or
right?
naivety.
Yeah, it's one or the other, and there's parts of it I don't want to give up because I feel like if I give that up, I'm just gonna be a crotchety freaking person, right? And like that naivety and that trust, it's what keeps me young, and I feel like it's what keeps me vibrant. And I haven't found something else to say, here's another part that I can believe in and trust in, where I can still maintain that level of energy. There's a childishness that I have that I like, that I enjoy, the goofiness, that sort of thing. And sometimes I take it too far. And sometimes I don't think I use it enough. And that naivety and that gullibility, like, man, I want to trust you, Ryan. Like I do. And Robbie, I want to trust you, and I will, and Robbie knows this too. Like I will, like say, here you go, take care of this thing, and it's big. You'll do great, right? And I'll probably give it to somebody who I shouldn't. And that's the questions. Those are the questions that I need to ask myself, and sometimes I need to rely on other friends. I'm lucky, I think because I've started learning how to listen to my gut. The little red flag goes off somewhere down in here, and I'm like, there is something off about this, but it doesn't fire off right away. And so I'll be walking through the mall. I'm so bad at this, and it's great when I'm with friends, but I'll be walking through the mall, and you know the person that comes out that wants to sell you shit, right? I don't want to be rude, so I'll just listen and then get sucked in. I used to get sucked in all the time. I don't do that anymore. I just say thank you, no thanks, and carry on about my life. That's so hard for me to do. So hard, right? But because I'm also interested in whatever the heck it is they're doing. So, and it's just because they're exuberant about it, even if it's fake. But anyways, that's I think,
There,
and
there-
I'll talk
there's a
forever,
book
but
that's called The Subtle Art of Saying No, and it's an amazing book. I
mhm.
just like it's
Subtle.
great to be able to just say, you know what, I'm not interested in that, or rather than just feeling obligated to do things.
Yeah, and I mean I've grown up a lot in that aspect, but it is definitely something that I've talked about more than once. That is something that I know can get me in trouble, but I know it helps. That's the part of me that helps me connect with people, and I always want to be open to that. And so there's the balance there for me.
I love what you talked about when the I'm sorry and apologies the other day. I have been blown away by that and shared that with a few people, and they were just so like, wow, that is so important. Apologizing for no reason and then turning it into another way of like, thank you for being patient as opposed to saying, sorry, I'm late. That made such a big difference. I could talk about that for hours, but sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
Like it's literally a philosophy that I used 3 years ago when I woke up to like how apologies, like just using sorry so much on a regular basis was basically me telling myself that I didn't have any worth in this conversation or in this space,
Yep.
right? So you never stand your ground. You always give yourself up. You always like your subconscious is listening to all of that stuff, and your actions will carry that out.
You're demeaning
Continue
yourself
that
and
process.
taking away any assertiveness.
Yeah,
Then
like you also take away the power of anyone else to own anything that they're supposed to be owning. but you don't give them that chance.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing
And also,
what
if
happened.
you find, if now that you know this, Ryan, notice when people say they're sorry. There's a lot of different meanings sometimes behind that, but it's very weak, right? Sometimes they'll flip on them, right? They'll say, I'm sorry for whatever, and you're like, you didn't do this. But now they want some kind of attention that they're seeking, or
It's a take. Sorry for me is a take. It's a forgiveness. You're gonna have to give me something to make me feel better about myself.
100%.
Right? So I need to take energy from you for my comfort. And where I wanted to live in, I need to give energy for that. If I'm gonna apologize, like we said, Ryan, it's gonna come with an action and and an effort to change behavior. That's what an apology is.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just freaking
Empty.
word salad, man. There's no substance to it.
Empty.
Yeah. So that's and then that's where I saw that one reel where it was instead of apologizing, there's a lot of things we can replace thank you for, which means I can show up in gratitude and give gratitude in spots where I used to ask for energy. I can show up and I can give that energy and acknowledge your effort instead of making you or asking you in the apology for that comfort, because it's really me just expressing discomfort. And so, like, it has had a profound effect on my own sense of self-worth, just changing that very one thing. I still need to find that journal entry and send it to you, so I'll get it to you, just so you can see where I was at back in where I was in my earlier sobriety.
Great.
Anyways, Robbie, we're at an hour and a half. What an awesome conversation with you,
Yeah,
Ryan.
this was
Ryan, thanks for sharing all of that.
Of course.
Really?
Yeah, no, this was great. I don't know if you wanted me to elaborate on the severe anxiety thing or if there's anything else.
We're
you
gonna
wanna-
come back and have another episode with you in a month.
Okay.
So we need to. We're all buying planners. I already bought mine, and you're
I
buying
am-
yours, and you're
I'm
buying
going to Hobby
yours,
Lobby
and I'm
after
getting a
this.
picture today at some point from both of you,
Yep.
and I'll send you a picture of mine whenever it comes from Amazon. I'm waiting for a dude in a truck to deliver mine. So we're gonna
Yeah,
have you back on, and we can talk about that anxiety, the anxiety
I would
part
love
of it, the
to. You guys
crippling
are really
part of
fun to
it.
talk to and very insightful subjects. So.
So we'll get you back on, and we'll ask how you are, and we'll do a review on how things have changed after we've tried to plan things out better, and we'll talk about the anxiety in a month or so. Anyways, gonna finish this off with any other guy out there and other man who's experiencing. I'm gonna call it a lack of connection, same as loneliness. Don't have friends. Feel like you've got nowhere to turn, no one to talk to, no one's gonna listen, no one cares. How many times have I don't know, you two have even thought those two thoughts yourself? And I know I have. And we have a problem here in to the world, but in on this side of the country, anyways, where male suicide rate is huge, and a lot of the times is we just need somebody to talk to, and we just need somebody to listen. And so I would like to say that whoever's listening, and if you've gotten this far, you're more than welcome to reach out to us on Instagram, Rock Bottom with Ryan. That's what your Instagram handle is.
Yep.
Robbie and I, Forged in Silence podcast on Instagram. Reach out. We're here. We're willing to listen. You don't have to do this alone. And even if you're not suffering from addiction or anything really, and you just want another guy. And I said this to Ryan, strangers are the people who saved my life because they don't have any skin in the game, but they still have a heart to listen. So there's 3 of us right here. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be looking forward to sharing another episode with everyone. Appreciate your time, Ryan. Always love seeing you, Robbie.
Thank you so much to both of you.